Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this afternoon I'm delighted to be joined by Chris McElwain. We're here to talk about St Mirren 0, Celtic 2. It's the Scottish Cup, and we're through. Some really good stuff to talk about here, Chris. Some concerns, I guess, as always. What did you make of that performance overall?
Look, I'll go with the positives first, right? It's a win. We're through in the Cup, which in a one-off games, anything can happen. So I think a couple of things that were really good. We built on our lead for the first time in about 2 or 3 games. So I think that was a real positive. Thought some of the play, particularly when we had both Ida and Kyogo on the pitch, was great. I think we stretched their defence. We had a couple of really good assists, one assist, one kind of sort of second assist by Palma, which I thought was great. I think our captain had a cracking game as well. And you know what? It's a clean sheet. And I would say, again, another really assured performance by Joe Hart. I thought he really, last couple of games, he's showing why he's still absolutely our best option in goal.
No, without a doubt. And I think that my kind of frustration with this, the goalkeeper scenario, is he's coming for a load of stick. You can see it in the comments, you can see it on social media, loads of stick. And I think that this season, he has been effective in many, many games that, it's easy to forget the St Johnstone save at the end where we're 2-1 up at McDiarmid Park. We've came out with the traps only at half-time after apparently Brendan gives them a rocket.
Yeah.
And it's his save that's the first touch of the move that ended up with us winning the game 3-1. There's been other moments, and I think that today was very good. He was excellent today. And CJ actually says man of the match, and that's not a good sign. According to him, Joe Hart, man of the match. Well, as I say, there were some really good performances I felt. But I want to talk about the 2 goals, and then we'll talk about the change in shape. 61 minutes in with the 2 substitutions. And I think the last half hour of the game is completely different as a result of that.
Yep.
It's because, up to that point, I think that what Brennan had changed was working. Callum McGregor was controlling the midfield. He had a space in the midfield that sometimes he doesn't have when we're playing 3 in there. Kyogo was dropping deep. He was dropping into kind of wider areas. He was getting more involved in the game. And I felt that if you're going to make a change at 61 minutes, make it a personnel change. Don't make it a shape change. But we went back to what we've been doing and what has been giving us a lack of, entertainment. But also, for me, you look at that 61 minutes in, I'm looking at the next chance that we get, right? It's 80 minutes. 80 minutes after that. And that was when Yang, I felt he carried the ball really, really well from a defensive area, right up the wing. He probably should have looked up to Kuhn and the move broke down. That was it. So from 61 minutes to 80 minutes, nothing was actually created. And I think we're waiting probably till another 5 or 6 minutes after that before Yang creates another chance. Yep. And I think that speaks volumes. The other style, it's so easy to play against. It's predictable. And by the way, I thought we defended, over the PCA, Hart played well. You've got to also say Scales seemed to keep that defence together. He's the guy that kind of pulled it all together. Loads of defensive headers, loads of tackles, throwing his body in front of Gogic in the second half as well. But we seem to lack a bit of spark after the substitutions were made in 61 minutes, Chris.
Yeah, I was very surprised that I thought he maybe, if he was going to take Ida off, he'd have put O on and just kept the same shape. I think, taking Palma off made sense because he'd been booked and, he did contribute pretty well. So I thought it was a good opportunity for Yang to come on. Kuhn come on made sense as well. But changing that system, right? Bringing Bernardo in, and this is not a dig at Bernardo, but bringing on that more traditional centre midfielder and taking off Kyogo, for me, was playing in that pocket of space between the midfield and the, and the attack. And he was giving the defenders a problem. His movement, his agility, his intelligence, and that for me meant that St Mirren weren't quite as keen on committing forward. But once you take him out of the equation, you've got O up there who's isolated, and or Kyogo initially, and then O up there is isolated. And suddenly St Mirren, that's easy to deal with. So they're pressing more men forward, and our midfield's not handling it. I felt watching that when Bernardo came on that our 2-man midfield suddenly looked like a man short. Weirdly enough, even though we'd suddenly had an extra man in midfield. And I have to say, as a Celtic fan, Is it a sign that the manager's under pressure, that he looks like he wants to hold a 2-goal lead rather than speculate and go and try and get a third or a fourth? That tells me that the man's under a bit of pressure and he's playing it safe. And I honestly, I don't want to see that from a Celtic manager or a Celtic team. We're 2 up. I want us to go on and get the third, get the fourth, get the fifth. That's what I want to see as a fan. I know it's not always realistic, but that's what I want to see. And I thought that was a really safe, unambitious system change, which actually, as you've said, didn't really yield any positive rewards. A couple of chances towards the end of the game when things were getting stretched, but that was it.
Yep, I totally agree with that. And I'm not here to look for a negative, because we've won the game 2-0. It was fairly comfortable. I think St Mirren played their part. They came out. They actually tried to attack us. We helped them a fair bit by giving away silly free kicks and loads of corner kicks. And then it's down to maybe talking about, obviously we gave Brendan Rodgers credit for changing it, talking about going back to the tried and tested to see the last half hour out. Fair enough with 10 minutes to go maybe, but I did feel as though there was still more to take from the game. We created a few decent chances. I think there's a few questions over personnel in that, you know, Ida wasn't phenomenal today. He had a really, really good chance. And you know what? I'm listening to the commentary, think, oh, he's on this stretch. You've got to burst the net there. That has got to be put away. And I think Palmer, for even the fact that he had a good assist in the first half, he did, credit to him for the Kyogo's goal. Jan came on and just looks a wee bit more direct. He looks like he's willing to take on a man. He still looks raw. Jan still looks raw. Yeah. But because, you know, as I say, he had an opportunity to open it right up by playing in Kuhn. But there are still question marks about what's your best 11 at this stage of the season, Chris.
I know. I think that. Look, you know, Yang for me, he's a bit of a frustrating player, you know, because you can see the ability. I mean, he takes 2 men out of the game, you know, just one move, one shimmy, absolutely brilliant. And you're like, okay, come on, move it in, you know, pass that across. And he runs and the move breaks down. It's that end product is not there. And he is, I think raw is the best way to describe him. And I think also, you know, but these are good guys to bring on when you're coming up against a tired defence. You know, I mean, if we kept the same system, you bring Yang on and those defenders are tired and Kyogo's still stretching them and, you know, O's maybe having a bit more mobility, whatever. He's got a good chance to get some more space. But when you take out that you know, second attacker, the defenders have got an easier job. You know, why are we making their job easier? You know, make it harder. They're under pressure. So I found that a bit frustrating. But yeah, there's definitely questions over the recruitment. I think, you know, we've got some areas where we can't change. Defence in particular. You know, Bernabe again, I think, you know, a really willing runner today, put himself about, put himself in there. But by God, the boy's got a first touch like an elephant. And I don't think he could trap a bag of sand. I really don't. I mean, the amount of passes, it just bounced off him and he lost. And, you know, going in with 2 feet's never a good idea just outside your box. I thought that was a bit of a crazy move. Could have punished us. So, but we're forced to play him at the moment because we simply have no alternative. You know, we don't even have a reasonably tried and tested young player to come through at the moment due to injury. So we're a bit stuck there. I think, you know, Tony at the other side did a pretty good job. He did what I expect to see. He's almost like he's turning into the James Milner of Celtic a little bit. He's a 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10 every time you see him play. And you know what, that works for me. I don't mind that. And he's still got up and got a few crosses in. So good on him. I think he's a great player to have in the squad, if not necessarily was the first team. But yeah, there are question marks to be asked. Bernardo, not a £6 million signing at the end of the season for me at the moment. Really needs to do something between now and the end of the season to get to make that look like a smart piece of business just now.
Listen, I think there's a few points to pull from that. The first one, I'm going to bring up some comments. How do you feel Bernabe played? Let us know in the comments section. Overall, how do you feel we performed as a team? Was it a mistake to make the changes so soon? Let us know all of these things and more. Bernardo had a wee spell before the break, I think, where people were talking about how much can we sign this guy for. But I think since we've come back, he's reverted back to the Bernardo we had seen in dispatches prior to that wee run. At the back, should Welsh be getting the game over Nawrocki? I think is a debate to be had. What's Welsh bringing to the party? Also, just looking on the bench there today, I'm a massive advocate for having guys like Vatan Kelly on the bench. Forrest completely dropped out. We never spoke about that before the game, but Forrest completely dropped out the squad. Obviously, we had Kuhn and Yang on there on the wings as well. What's your thoughts? Let us know. We want to bring as many of those into play as possible. Pete, very, very good result with so many players missing. We do. Important players, mainly for me, Carter Vickers and Hatate. They two guys make a massive difference and would make a difference to any team in Scotland. Boheed Bob, clean sheet, never in doubt, just win Celtic, job done. Listen, if we do that every week, I'm happy, right? And we can try and fine-tune it as we go. Joseph McGonigal, good defensive display. Interesting that St Mirren came onto their game after the formation change. I think they got more space. They came into it because of that, Joseph. And surely Brendan can see it. Surely he can see it just like all of us. Cell 88, your dad watches Celtic win 2-1 away and still shouts sack the manager. Possibly. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Absolutely. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Yang looks really bright. He has something, a tough game, but into the hat for the next round. Of course, we've still got Airdrie versus Hearts, isn't it? The final game before it goes into the actual draw. Danny Boy, that is a very good cup tie. Not a great performance, but St Mirren made a really good game of it. I think that's true enough. They opened up and they had a few chances. But when you're talking about Bernabe, I'm going to start off with him because I've not been a massive fan. I've got to admit, I've not been a massive fan. I keep saying to Palmer, a lot of it's down to discipline, and that's discipline of your defensive duties. It's discipline, obviously, with the diving aspect of it. And I think that some of that keeps into Bernabe's play. I remember the game where it was never a penalty, but he gets penalised for a penalty when the ball's behind him. He can't see what's happening. There's a flailing arm. The ball hits it. Never a penalty in a million years. But what happened is he lost it. He lost the plot. And he had to get hooked. I think he got hooked at half-time, Chris, because he didn't have the discipline to tune in back into the game, put that behind him and move on. And I think it's one of the most difficult things that you can instill in a player because it's up here. And that stamp, I mean, he'd absolutely skinned the boy, nutmeg, lovely wee bit of skill. But the stamp could have been a lot worse. You don't go in, both feet off the ground, both feet coming down like that. He probably, for me, he was unlucky because we should have had the free kick for previous. But you don't follow up with that, and that's what worries me about. Again, I'm going to talk about discipline of your positional ability to understand. Where St Mirren were eventually called offside at the back post. The boy had an absolute nightmare. You watch that back again. He's in acres of space, and Bernabe doesn't even look over his shoulder. So I've got a bit of a concern at the moment down the left because you've got Bernabe and you've got Palmer. Palmer comes off, Yang comes on, and as much as, he looks as though he's got something, he's got this raw ability to take on a player, and he needs to be refined, and there's a lot of work to be done there. At the moment, I'm concerned down the left-hand side. On the right, Ralston, as you say, gives you what you expect. And then you've got Maeda. Maeda's like a hitman. He scores a goal, doesn't even break a smile. What I mean? That was unbelievable. But that's my concern at the moment. So as soon as Taylor can come back, the better, because it fills part of that issue. Still not convinced on the left wing, though, Chris. I don't really know where we are with the left wing.
I'm the same. I think the problem is that you would know Yang is bought for potential, right? He's this project signing is one of the ugly words we don't like using, but the problem is that we're not in a position in the league to be bedding these guys in and giving them time to develop their finished product. We need guys in that can actually make a meaningful difference over the course of every 90 minutes we've got to play between now and the end of the season. We've got everything to play for, and we've got everything to lose. We need guys in who are dependable, who are absolutely should be first picks on the team sheet every week. You don't want to see a different left winger or right winger in there each week. I agree with you on Maeda. Maeda's a proven thing. Still frustrates the hell out. Maybe he's crossing sometimes where he sometimes puts him out the stadium.
Yeah.
But he gives you a lot more than just that element of his game. So you can kind of forgive that. You can kind of cover off on that. On the left side, I mean, Palmer, he's involved in both goals today. One a really direct assist, another one, I think he put the ball into O'Reilly which then came off the bar to Maeda. But there's elements of his game that worry me. Again, discipline you spoke about, the dive, got himself booked needlessly. inability to get past a player, and definitely doesn't do that defensive job that Maeda does on the other side. And that's when you've got a frailty in Bernabei with his kind of, bit reckless, bit of the old bomb scare about him, and I'm not condemning him. I think he did some stuff good today, but still elements that cause concern. You need someone that can come in and give him a bit of support, and I don't think Palmer does that. So yeah, that left hand side is a real concern. And when you're playing, an untried or a relatively, untested central defensive pairing, they've got enough to worry about without having to cover, an absent left back, or an absent left side. So yeah, we really need to find a solution for that left hand side.
Yeah, we do. I mean, Taylor coming back obviously is a player I missed when I was talking about the injuries to Carter Vickers and Hatate. Taylor's a massively important player. But it's been the story of our season, stop-start with a lot of people getting injured, coming back for a few games, out again. And it means that our defence hasn't been settled. But when you're looking at the central defensive partnership and the players that we've got available right now, obviously you've got the two guys that started today, Scales and Welsh. You've got Nawrocki on the bench. You've got Lagerbielke completely out of favour, even though we blocked a move to Lecce. He was already half checked out by speaking to the Italian press. You've got Kobayashi, the invisible man. Who knows what's going on there? So you really are playing between, at the moment, Scales, Welsh and Nawrocki. Has Nawrocki done that much wrong not to be getting a start?
No, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, okay, the Miovski goal for Aberdeen. I mean, I think there was an element of great play by Miovski. I don't think you can put that solely on Rocky himself. I think he was a bit let down again by our left back being so out of position and not having a cover. So no, but we're not seeing what's going on in training. I think Welsh comes in. I don't think Welsh does a huge amount wrong either. I mean, I thought that central back pairing today were under a lot of pressure. There was a lot of corners, a lot of free kicks, a lot of set piece delivery into our box. And do you know what? For the most part, they dealt with it. They really did. And Joe Hart obviously played a huge part in that. But yeah, I'm struggling to see. I mean, Carter Vickers comes back. If he comes back fit, you think he goes right into the defence. I don't think he drops Scales. So who's your third choice centre back between Welsh and Nawrocki? I couldn't pick between them at the moment. I don't think either of them have done enough wrong to be totally out of favour. At the same time, given the money was spent on Nawrocki, I could maybe say I'd expect a wee bit more from him, and we've not really seen it. But again, he's been kind of in and out of the team. He's a long injury layoff. He's in and out of the team. He's working with a guy who himself is, 6 months into his Celtic career, realistically, because this is his first time he's played for the first team on a consistent basis in Scales. So, we don't have that consistent defensive partnership at any point this season. It's just been chop and change so much. So, yeah, I don't think anyone's completely out of favour other than Lagerbielke at the moment, which I find as bizarre as you do. But between Welsh and Nawrocki, other than the price tag for Nawrocki, I don't know what puts him ahead of Welsh just now. No,
I know. It is a difficult one because it is that lack of quality, that word that's been used and overused so often this season. Paddy Burns asks, how did Friday go? Was it all good? And Patrick Fitzpatrick also asks, how did I get on at Belfast? So I'm going to break away for a wee second just to thank a few people. That was a phenomenal trip over to Belfast. I mean, you can imagine as a Celtic fan, right, spending a journey from obviously for Stranraer over there, but the drive up to Stranraer as well with Jackie McNamara and Simon Donnelly. I mean, God almighty, it's just like you're a sponge. You're sitting there chilling with these two guys that you paid to watch. And then we get over there and we meet up with Tommy Johnston, another ex-Celt, and we catch up with Tommy as well. But I've just got to say that the actual venue, the Glen Park Ballroom, it was the kind of launch night. And it's Mark Smith and his partner, Katrina. And they were phenomenal. They put on a really, really good night. The entertainment, believe it or not, pre-event was Matt O'Reilly. But this Matt O'Reilly's got curly hair, a beard, and a guitar. So check him out because he was tremendous. He was absolutely brilliant. He got us right up for it. And the staff and everything were great. But what really hit me was the fact that so many people, like Paddy Lavery, for example, you'll see them popping up in the comment section. And Paddy and the boys for Ardloing, they had raised cash for wee Jamie Tierney. And they came up to me during the night and handed over this cash, which will go directly to Jamie's dad. People like that you think, Chris, this is a stream and we can air and vent our fury and all this kind of stuff. But at the heart of what we do is this community that's been built. And it wasn't even built by design. It just almost happened by chance during the pandemic, and we kept the thing running. And then you think, well, what can we do that's good? And that's exactly what it is. People like Paddy, people like Frankie Kane, who came up and did exactly the same and donated, and there was others as well. So I just think that we feel absolutely blessed on nights like that. You're amongst Celtic fans anyway, which is great. No better feeling. But then you realise again, and it's, people that are part of this community that's been built up online, coming together for a night. Big Yogi was there as well. John Hughes came in and mingled and got involved. And that's what I took from it. So we will be back. Absolutely 100% we will be back. And we will be setting up other events because it's all about getting together. We're like-minded. People with the same state of mind and having a cracking night. And it was a cracking night. And after it, because I am a Celtic da, I jumped in the car and went back to the B&B. So I didn't go to, after hours or whatever. I'm kind of past that, I think. But thank you for getting involved, every single one of you. And if there's anybody I've forgotten, I will mention you tomorrow on the bulletin as well. Barry O'Sullivan. We've not had too much to cheer about lately. So a positive team performance. However, we lack real quality in key areas. And what we try to do there, and again, I'm not going to turn this into recruitment analysis, but during the January window, Chris, you were getting the impression that there was going to be less business done because Brendan wasn't coming at the end, if you like, of the transfer business, a lot of which people will point out, yeah, but he was in the building 2 months before we signed X, Y, and Z. A lot of the deals had already been set up in the summer, right? Yeah. Brendan claimed them. He claimed them again at the AGM. And I think that you got the sense this time round that, it was going to be more of a Brendan Rodgers transfer window. It was going to be more about quality. We brought two guys in Ida and Kuhn. I think time will tell. We've got to gauge them over the second half of the season, over the next 13 league games. And we've had a wee bit of a mixed bag, I think, because Kuhn started one game. He's come on for a couple of subs appearances. Ida has started 2 games. He's come on for 1 sub appearance. He wasn't really involved today, but he probably should have scored, I think. I'm not going to give him a hard time. And it was all about bolstering what we already had, bringing back the people who were injured, Chris, and then building on it in the second half of the season. But I think my biggest takeaway from today's game is we can change the shape and be more dominant and create more space and more chances, rather than sticking rigidly to the shape that we moved back to for the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think that there's evidence to support that, right? I mean, I think for 60 odd minutes today, I thought we were the dominant team. I think, we weren't perfect. And I think we've got to remember any change of system, particularly the first time you do it, it's going to take time for that to bed in, for players to get familiar with it. So, it's not, unless this is something we've been working on the training pitch all year, which I don't believe is the case, then you'd expect that there'd be some early, kind of early jitters around it. But I thought today there was enough evidence to show that change of shape was a positive move. And I think yielded some really positive results. Look, Ida's just in the door. He's already shown his mental strength. We scored 2 penalties in the last match. Today, I thought he put himself about well. I liked there was evidence of his physicality. He was holding players off. He was turning players, pretty well. Again, maybe not getting the most service. Something we've levelled with Kyogo as well. Not enough service coming his way. But I think what he did do today is he tied up the defenders and he released Kyogo to an extent, whereas Kyogo had more influence today than what I've seen in the last few games, and that's a positive. I thought when the 2 of them were playing together, I thought our wingers had more time and more space, and consequently get a couple of decent crosses in, 2 of which resulted in goals. And our midfield looked under less pressure as well. I felt as though Callum McGregor had a lot more time to influence the game. I thought he had a great first half. Matt O'Reilly was kind of off it today. I'll be honest. I think he didn't have one of his best games, and he's been struggling the last couple of games. But his quality has been there for all to see in prior matches, and I think he'll hopefully step it up and come back to form. But yeah, plenty of evidence for me to show that we can change this formation and get some positive results. So I'm all for it going forward. I hope it's not a one-off for a cup game. I hope he sticks to it going forward.
One of the things we were talking about over the weekend, not to name drop, ladies and gents, honestly, because when I'm in the presence of Celtic players, I'm like a wee boy, right? But they were talking about some of the goals that came up. Some of the goals we were talking about. Obviously, the stopping the 10th season, there's some famous games and goals in that. And you're looking at things like the 2-0 game against Rangers. And it was just that incessant attack, right? That is what it was. Now, I know you can't go gung-ho all the time, but I think if you do have enough of this quality that we keep battering on about, you can go toe-to-toe with any team in Scotland and beat them. We do have the quality. And I mean, I think sometimes players look as though they're playing within themselves, within that rigid system. And it's about getting the shackles off. So Kyogo, for me, the shackles have to come off. I've never doubted his quality as a football player. I'll always go back to the fact that the only reason we are where we are in the league is because of him in the 2 Rangers games, right? He also scored a couple in the Champions League. I think the quality is not a question I would even entertain. It comes down to the fact that we're not producing the football that suits him, and it's the tempo. So as soon as something, breaks, he is thinking 3, steps ahead of just about everybody else on the park. He's making the move. The ball's not coming. And the ball's not coming because by the time it gets out to the people who are going to release him, right, it's been so slow. And like in the halftime bulletin, 20 passes instead of 3, that everybody else is regrouped. And I think we just seen little flashes of it in that first 60 minutes. It wasn't perfect, but little flashes of it. And there's nothing wrong with mixing it up when you do have a much better quality of team as well. So thanks everybody for getting involved. Now the Kurgan reckons that Hart, Scales and McGregor all get pass marks today. I would agree with that. It's particularly in the first hour. McGregor controlled the game. He bossed the game. He orchestrated the tempo of it. When we move to a 3, I think there's an issue. Look, Matt O'Reilly, I think, is phenomenal for Celtic. He has been an unbelievable player this season, right? And because he sets his bar there, anything less than that, you notice it, right? But there's one thing he's not blessed with, and that's pace.
No.
Matt O'Reilly is not blessed with pace. Bernardo is not blessed with pace. So I think that if you're playing with a 3 and 2 of them have got that kind of lack of energy and tempo, if you like, it definitely shows. If your extra body is Kyogo, who's dropping in from up top and dropping deep and picking the ball up, then the change has been absolutely evident in the first 61 minutes of the game today. Brendan will have seen it. The data analysis guys will see it. Hopefully, the management team around about him can see it, and we do it far more often. I think about playing at home, Chris, against a really poor side in Ross County, a team that Motherwell absolutely obliterated 5-0, right? And Motherwell went out to championship opposition in the cup. So Ross County are not a good side, hence the reason they're about to have their 3rd manager of the season. Why on earth play that turgid system and play the ball in the horseshoe left and right, and take 20 passes when 3 will do attack. And I think at home we can do it far more often. And if you've got Kyogo getting more involved, we will create space, we'll create chances, we'll score more goals. David Brennan, thanks for supporting the channel. It's always an absolute pleasure to see people doing that. I'm predicting Rangers versus Morton and Kilmarnock versus Celtic for the next round. Either way, definitely home for them and away for us. We will see soon enough tonight. I'm guessing it's after the Airdrie Hearts game they're going to be making the next round draw as well. Now, Barry O'Sullivan, we've not had too much to cheer about lately, so a positive team performance. I've already said this, Barry. I thought I'll bring it back up because it was positive. David Boyle, it's clear when we reverted back to midfield 3, there you go. The team slowed it. Maybe I just nicked David's point. O'Reilly and Bernardo is just another O'Reilly and Turnbull. No pace. So we only have the luxury of one in the team for me. And no, you're right. I think it's huge. Pace in the current game in this age, Chris, is huge. And if you don't do it, it really... These teams that defend against us at Celtic Park are not great teams. They're not great football teams, but all week they are working on defensive shape. And then we make it so much easier for them to play against us. And that's been one of the biggest issues. Now, Bernabe, here we go. He's got a bit of stick, so when he's going to get something positive, I'll bring it up. Bernabe played well, says opinionated Glaswegian OG. Are you the OG? CBs were solid. Yang and Kuhn looked good. Kyogo scored. All good. I would say that although Maeda has got that in him, Chris, to do the difficult bit so well and then cross the ball into Rosette. I've said it before, he's the only guy I've seen who's hit the Green Brigade with a shot. Maeda, right? I would still play him every week.
Yeah, I think he's got more in his locker, and I think that's what's important, right? I mean, yeah, he's a frustrating guy to watch sometimes with the end product, because you think, just swing it in low and fast, whip it into the box and there's a goal, or drive it in yourself. You've got the pace, and he's definitely got the ability. But whether it's a pace that just acts to his detriment when it comes to crossing because he's just going too fast that he can't direct it, or he just can't get his foot around it properly, I'm not sure. It's funny because I'd made a point. I made a point to one of my mates earlier. I said, "You see, if you could just combine Palma and Maeda and just turn them into a hybrid, you'd have a perfect winger, right? You'd have a guy who's got great delivery, great ability, but he's also got the pace and he's got the drive and he's got the work rate. You've got your perfect way. You've got your Jota, right? Almost, right? You've got your Jota. But I think, yeah, it's something I'm almost willing to put up with, because he does chip in with the occasional goal. He does get good few assists, and he brings a lot from a defensive standpoint and support the right hand side. And I think he brings more than you would criticise. I think he brings more positives than you would criticise of him. And I think, look, he's still a player. What is Maeda now? 25, 26, maybe even a little bit older. But he's still got a couple of years where he can still refine that side of his game. So yeah, I would play him every single week. And I think, on the other side, I mentioned Palma there. Palma's got some brilliant attributes as a winger. I mean, his delivery is great. It really is. We know he's got a rocket of a shot on him. And, so he's obviously got some ability. And I've seen him use his skill on the ball to take players on, but that pace element is not there. Even if he can get past the player can stay with him. So, whereas with Maeda can break away and get into space. And I think that's the big weakness with Palma. Yang came on today, and I thought, good ambition, driving forward, good ability on the ball, but yeah, just that element of raw. You're kind of like, look up, just pick your player. 2 years, I think he'll be potentially a top player if he gets the opportunity. But yeah, we are lacking. We're lacking that proper, absolute polished winger at the moment. We've got issues. In fact, we've got issues across the team in that regard. But
I've not heard any update on the Abada.
No, I checked at half time and I couldn't see anything on it.
Missing from the squad.
Sure.
I'm going to put it out there then. I think you play Maeda on the left. You play Maeda on the left, right, and Palma on the right. And the reason I say that is Maeda gives you that insurance with regards to the defensive kind of qualities that we need to back up Bernabe. And on the right hand side, he has got a bit of a wound, has Palma on the right foot, which is maybe why he doesn't like going on the outside to cross the ball in on his left foot.
Yep.
So you know what? Use your right foot, hit the byline, overlap, let Ralston overlap you as well. And you might see a difference there. More of a balance, I think, Chris. More of a balance if they switched wings. And it's something that you see in game quite a lot. But I would like to see Maeda starting on the left, Palma on the right. A few comments before we wrap it. And we've got Jean-Paul II. Thought Bernabe gave it everything today. There's no doubting that side of things. I think the application. I think we just need a bit more discipline with the positional element of that. I think the stamp could have been a lot worse than it was. The frustration creeps into his game as well. Joe Fulham. We keep winning, cracking Celtic badge in your avatar, by the way. And that's the main thing. It is, because if we keep doing that, as Feed the Bear says, good support with the channel, Feed the Bear, the double is on the hoops. Jamie Young, big shout out to Paddy Lavray. The guy, honestly, if you get an opportunity to meet him, phenomenal. Paddy gave me a wee gift to go home and everything. Honestly, the Ardorian boys, phenomenal. The DJ of choice, we need to stop letting teams get down the wings and cross the ball in. Happens far too much. You're right, and I'll tell you something. If we do get through this season having won the double, you know, we can just wave Joe Hart away into the distance as a hero, right? Because we know he's had his detractors. We know that he's not the perfect goalie. But I tell you something, with the saves that he's making and the fact that we're up against it with a lot of these crosses because we're not great at defending them, if we pull a double out the bag this season, Chris, and he's managed a double, a treble, and a double, we'll look back on the time that Joe Hart spent at Celtic very, very fondly indeed. Tony Cassidy, watch the space is all I'm saying, my friend, because we are planning a wee trip over to Ireland where we might get a few different venues and a few different guests over there as well. Jungle Lion, we are coming soon. That's all I can say at the moment. But we are coming soon. Thank you, everybody. It's been 1,000 strong after the game, 1,100 strong at half-time. We really do appreciate your support, every single one of us. Thank you all for getting involved. Like, subscribe to the channel, give us a big thumbs up, hit the notifications bell, loads coming your way. And a really interesting project was getting spoken about over the weekend, and hopefully that will arrive on your channel as well. All that's left for me to say once again, Chris McElwain, an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.